Imagine you're a director brought on to make a movie set in Zack Snyder's hellscape DC Comics universe. You don't have a history with writing superheroes, but you have written a bunch of crime thrillers like Training Day and SWAT and The Fast and the Furious. What the fuck is that doing here? You've also directed movies like Fury and Street Kings and Sabotage. Most of your movies haven't been blockbusters, but they do get good reviews. So you'd be the perfect choice for Warner Brothers' new edgy villain film, Suicide Squad. Of course, since it's set in the Snyderverse, your vision will be diluted, touched, tainted, and molested by the studio, who's reeling from the negative responses to Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. What started out as a solid action thriller has now been reshot and edited into a Marvel-esque action comedy, while cutting out most of the Joker scenes, which would have helped Harley Quinn's character arc make more sense, and squandering Will Smith's Deadshot, the only other stable, mildly interesting character in the movie. Still, it's not as dark as BVS, so people rejoice and spend nearly $750 million on what reviewers deem a mediocre film. The fans, however, eat it up, especially the women, who for some reason all want to be like Little Miss Harley Quinn. To say that this costume design is questionable is being generous. It's definitely a make-it-work moment. I hear on good authority that Tim Gunn couldn't make it past 30 minutes. Every time they showed Harley Quinn's nickel booty, he said, "I can see her uterus." But thousands of women liked the costume and the character and felt inspired by Harley, even though she's basically a crazy psychopath killer. It spawned more interest in the character and led to more comic books featuring her, and eventually a spin-off movie that I'm sure was totally fine. But the years weren't kind to Suicide Squad. That initial "thank God it's not directed by Snyder" shine faded. People began seeing the flaws, the many, many flaws, and they especially began to hate Harley Quinn. Not so much the character, but the shitty costume. I mean, let's be fair. You made her look skankier than this, and they were trying to make her look like a dime-bag hoe. But it's not just comic book fans or fashionistas complaining. It's also the feminists, Karen's final form. They would like to speak to the patriarchy about my soggy knees and bare midriffs, and that thing that happens when you don't shove food in your mouth all the time because even a man high on LSD wouldn't spooge within 20 miles of your vagina. You know, being fit. What do you do? Well, if you're David Ayer, you apologize. When some busybody Karen says, quote, "A female character in an abusive relationship is already political, my dude. The way your camera looked at her was political. The way you used her was political. You treated her as an object and she still rose above it. That was political, too." You respond with, "Please, ma'am, take my balls. How dare I have a female character dressed the way countless women dress the moment it's 70 degrees outside." Quote, "Retweeting because this was very thoughtfully written. Thank you for this. I am growing and learning in the changing world." Yes, kneel before your Karen. I'm sure all the whining will stop now. 1 month later, some Targaryen Karen whines, quote, "Wonder if David Ayer will have the women in the movies in super booty shorts and give us gratuitous ass and tit shots. If only. Please, sir, can I have some more?" That's the proper response to that. Who doesn't like a little bit of titty? Even the gayest of gay men like a little bit of titty. But now Ayer doesn't want to defend the voluptuous women. Instead, he says, quote, "Why would I do that? I know I'm a man, but I have a good soul and support and believe in feminism. It hurts to be attacked like this. I'm not your enemy. Dude, you have a dick. You're the enemy. You could cut your dick off, get a boob job, and name yourself Davina Ma'am. I thought your last name was Ayer. It's Ma'am. You'd still be their enemy. There's no winning with feminists. There's no amount of bending the knee that will ever be enough. They will whine about the same thing no matter how many times you say mea culpa. That's why Targaryen Karen wouldn't quit. Quote, "Dunno, mate. You did it in Suicide Squad, so I thought I'd ask. Good for you that you learned, though." Look at Karen Concern trolling. You already got what you wanted, baby. He's on bended knee. What more do you want? He'd suck your chick dick, but your head's in the fucking way. Thankfully, though, it seems like Ayer finally found his balls. Quote, "What have I learned? Should I make directors only direct women in coveralls? What if an actor wants to be depicted as a sexual being? Am I permitted to do that? What are the rules?" Finally, someone said it. This is the problem with feminists. They complain about people not acknowledging women's agency, while they don't acknowledge women's agency. Some women want to look sexy. Some women want to show off their bodies. Some women want the camera to deep dive into their cootie cats. All women don't want that, but some women do. If that's how they choose to act in a film, If that's how they want their characters to be filmed, if it's totally fine with the director wanting to emphasize their bodies, that's their choice. You don't have to like it, but you don't get to stop it. And it's interesting that in every instance of feminists trying to so-called desexualize women, all they end up doing is making the women look and act like men, and basically putting women in beekeeper suits. Not a strip of skin can be shown on a woman, meanwhile they're happy to depict teenage boys like this. Every time people try to change things to suit feminists, the feminists find another reason to complain. We saw this with the Birds of Prey movie. All the changes made to suit feminists, especially insulting male fans, resulted in fans not going to see the movie, which in turn led feminists to complain about the lack of support from men. The same men they told not to see the movie because it wasn't for them. We're going to see the same thing with The Last of Us Part 2. Feminists are all happy about the strong female character representation in the lesbians and the soy boy dead men, but that tune will change when they realize one of those lesbians will die at the beginning of the game, and the other one will probably die at the end of the game, killed by its ma'am, who is ironically the very feminist personification of the ideal woman. Neil Druckmann is going to be called all sorts of misogynists, homophobes, and transphobes when the truth actually comes out. And then he too will have to bend the knee even further because feminists, the ultimate Karens, will never be satisfied. This is why you never apologize to feminists. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.